Hey, Carl, now that Pulsar Security is going to be sponsoring the podcast directly, you want to hear the ad copy that we came up with?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, get ready for this. In a world full of security challenges.
No. We can't say in a world.
Come on, that sounds perfect.
You think we should?
It's like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie
You
cliche.
think we should leave it open for services on Mars? Is that what you're saying? I mean,
you can't.
Okay.
All right, just go ahead and read the rest of it.
Can I say in a world or no?
Go for it. I don't care.
In a world full of security challenges, trust is everything.
Well, that's true.
At Pulsar Security, we are enabling organizations to thrive safely in an ever-changing digital world.
Yeah.
Our experts conduct cutting-edge cybersecurity services, ensuring your business stays one step ahead of threats.
All good.
Experience peace of mind as we deliver robust solutions tailored to your needs. Your security is our priority. I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Choose Pulsar Security for a safer tomorrow. Visit us at pulsarsecurity.com. Empower your digital journey with confidence. Security starts here.
Okay. I like everything but
Okay.
in a world.
It worked for Batman.
I do like to
This
dress
is
dark and in
serious.
hoodies.
Now, this is serious stuff here, man. You're talking about keeping companies safe.
Yeah, we are talking about that.
Like
don't wanna-
cyber superheroes. Come on, Carl.
Conjure up images of the predator, you know?
Well, we should have done this from the start. So now we are officially sponsoring Security This Week by Pulsar Security.
Well, good luck with your ad.
Thanks.
Hey, guys, yesterday I had a hard talk with my wife. You know, those
Really?
conversations. Yeah. I said, for the last 13 years, all you've done is find mistakes in everything I say. She said, 14 years. Welcome back. It's Security This Week. Hey, guys, Dwayne and Pat.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello. How are you?
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
And hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys don't get to see him, but at least we get to see him.
Right.
Or have to.
You have to. Who knows? We may do video in the future. Let us know.
Thinking about it.
If you want to see that.
If you want to see our ugly
hell no.
mugs. Yeah, right.
Or you can pay us not to.
Ooh, that might be good.
They always told me I had a face made for radio.
That's right.
The big clickbait is very heinous, and you want to stick around for this one. But there's a couple of pretty important stories. Let's start with Google. They fixed several Chrome 0 days that were exploited at Pwn to Own. So Pwn to Own kind of works.
Yeah, that's the idea. You want to get the good guys to find the bad stuff so you can fix it.
Yeah, and honestly, Pwn to Own's fantastic. I love watching it. It's like for a nerd like me, it's like the Super Bowl.
Why don't you define what it is? So for those who aren't,
For those who didn't listen,
I just said it's a nerd Super Bowl. Are you not paying attention?
I would pay to see nerds play football.
No, not me.
Wait, the Super Bowl's football? Anyways, so in this particular, Pwn to Own is an event where security researchers spend time breaking into specific products. And Microsoft participates, and Google participates, and Tesla participates, and actually the team that broke into the Tesla and was able to do a buffer over on the CAN bus actually got a Tesla.
Yeah, I heard about that.
3, which is funny. It's got to be bittersweet because you win the Tesla thing, you get a Tesla 3, and I'm betting your entire team goes, well, nobody's going to drive that. We're going to tear it apart so we can win next year.
That's right.
But anyways, this particular one, so researchers come, they show their 0-day exploits that, can do all sorts of damaging things, and they make money for it.
Yeah.
So,
Good stuff.
Yep, that's Pwn to
So
Own.
these Google Chrome 0 days, these guys found them, Pwn to Own, and then they fixed them.
Yeah.
It's like a crowdsourced red team.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're still
Absolutely.
paying
And
for it.
some of these guys are the best of the best. Honestly, just fantastic researchers and find really unique ways to break in all sorts of systems. So I think it's a great event.
And what a great way to bring, the people's greed and lust for money into, for good, to exploit it.
Whoa. I would like to think it's like nerd sports. Listen, we pay football players and basketball players lots of money to do what they do. We should have nerd sports.
You're absolutely right. Thank you for bringing the context to my crazy ranting, Dwayne. Thank you.
I just took it personally.
Now, so what's the difference between this and a red team? Well, if you pay a company like ours to do a red team, then we do not publish what we find. But if you do a pwn to own, anything they find is going to get published eventually.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a risk there. It's good. I think it's good. I think both are important. Mm-hmm. You got to pick one or the other.
Yeah. And, for those companies who are thinking, we don't want the bad publicity, you actually do, because what it says is that, hey, we're willing to fix our bugs. You can't pretend that you don't have bugs. Everybody does. Security vulnerabilities are kind of the worst form of bug, but it's best that you say, look, we found these, or somebody found them and we fixed them.
We're looking. We're working on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So this next one was a story. It's actually a PDF file. I don't know. Should we link to a PDF file? Is that okay?
Okay. There,
let Dwayne add some things first.
Yeah. Give me a second. Honestly, it's funny. My team jokes about it all the time. There are ways to weaponize PDFs. There are ways to do it.
Yeah.
But most of the readers are actually really good about it.
It's not that common anymore. It used to be that an Acrobat was the WordPress of the day back a while ago. But now the world has kind of gotten its act together. And again, like Dwayne said, it is possible to weaponize it, but it's not the most common. That said, you shouldn't click on anything you don't have a really good reason to trust.
All right. However, I did, and Dwayne did, and this is a PDF from the British Library. It's a review of a cyber incident that happened in 2023. Dwayne, what happened?
So, it's funny. We're reading through this, and all ransomware that we see, it's devastating, right? It's sad to see an organization be crippled because somebody wants to steal money or somebody unfortunately clicked on something they shouldn't have. So, that sucks. So we were reading through this. We were trying to find, what's unique about this particular ransomware attack.
Or what do we not talk about that is a possible ramification of ransomware? And we found something pretty interesting that we've seen before, but we don't really talk about. Is on the second page, on the second to last paragraph, it says, quote, "Our major software systems cannot be brought back to their pre-attack form, either because they are no longer supported by the vendor or because they will not function in the new secure infrastructure that is currently being rolled out." That's pretty devastating. That means that there's a before times and an after times in your environment. And it could really be disruptive. They could have costs associated with acquiring new solutions for vendors that they were avoiding replacing.
Yeah.
Which they should have replaced anyways.
And it forced their hand.
But you could see a ransomware, even if you didn't pay the ransom, or even if you did pay the ransom, where it actually multiplies the cost.
Don't pay the ransom.
Don't pay the ransom.
Don't pay the ransom.
Do it.
Tomahawks.
But it's funny. We say don't pay the ransom, right? For people who haven't paid the ransom in the past or haven't been ransomwared, the process of paying the ransom, just listen to this and think if this is a reasonable thing to do. That you click on something in an email and it infects your entire company and everything gets encrypted, and that sucks. And then you get this for $300. We'll give you, we'll help you get out of this mess. And you then think to yourself, I'm going to give $300 or $1,000 or $500,000 or $1 million to the people who infected me. And what are they going to give you back? They're going to give you another program to run that they say will decrypt everything and leave it clean.
They're trustworthy.
Think about that.
Think about that.
How have they disproven their trust?
It's like, listen, I'm gonna go up on some random. I'm gonna go to some random person. I'm gonna stab them, and then I'm gonna say, "Hey, if you give me money, I'll bring you to the hospital, and give me your address,
and
I'll drop you off at home.
I need your social security card to check you in.
I'll check on you in 6 months.
It's like, you're such a good Samaritan. Here's $1,000.
And that's the thing. So it's the backup and the recovery. Companies should be. Here's the bottom line. Companies should be prepared for total data loss through their backup and recovery all the time. That is table stakes. When I first hired Dwayne back in a different millennia, his first task for weeks was review all the backups, test all the backups,
invent fire,
DLTs,
invent the wheel.
And so that, if something happens, we can recover. That's table stakes. That's the minimum requirement to run a business is to have backups that actually will restore.
So did you read anything in this incident report that says that they did or did not back things up? Because it sounds like even if they had things backed up, their new environment prevented them from restoring them.
That's not uncommon. I mean, we've seen plenty of times where you have software that you installed back in 1998 to do accounts payable.
Yeah.
Right. And you've been using it forever and you kind of cobble it and keep it together. And if that all gets encrypted, the vendor doesn't exist anymore. There's no way for you to find the installation media and you're kind of in trouble at this point.
Yeah.
And we see that time and time again.
In other words, they don't have their backup. They haven't got their disaster recovery figured out.
Mm-hmm.
But they also haven't modernized their software and done any kind of security review to make sure that they were safe.
Well, there's that too. Right.
They were living on borrowed time anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you...
And we see this with the healthcare work where they have a Windows XP machine running some image processing or some thing. And it's like, yeah, the vendor doesn't have a newer solution or the vendor's gone or we built it back 20 years ago and we don't have the budget to rebuild it.
No, I built it. That was my software that I built in VB in the 90s.
I believe
it's still
it.
running at the hospital.
Do you know how hard it is to decompile VP? I'm just saying there aren't any tools out there anymore to do it.
But this is...
That's kind of funny. And the only developers will get that joke.
This is
Right?
This is IT malpractice. If you run a company, own a company, have a service provider, and you can't go and unplug and remove a random device, and in a week they can't have a replacement of that device running everything that was running that at the an hour or a day or a week before you unplugged it, that's malpractice. That's the minimum requirement for IT. They have to be able to recover this.
So
stuff
they
when it
should
fails.
hire a chaos monkey as a person to
I
go
love
around
that
and
model.
knock things out.
Well,
Take
first
things
do the
down,
backups.
pull out the cables out of the network patch.
100%.
First, do the backups.
Yep.
But here's the thing. It's scary. A lot of IT people will be like, oh, I got the backups, but I don't want to test them because to test them, I have to overwrite the system data. And if it didn't work, then I've destroyed the system. You have to get past that either. Have a backup piece of hardware that you can restore to, or get a solution that restores individual files so that you can have some confidence. But you have to get off of that. The fact that the backup says it's done, it's not done until you've tested the restore.
Yeah.
And I think that if I had to go and do an audit of 9,000, 10,000 companies, I'd be shocked if more than 5% would pass.
Okay.
Way to bring the room down.
I know.
On that happy note.
I mean, listen, backup and recovery is never a party topic.
Yeah.
I like
really-
it. I bring it up all the time.
I like it.
That's why I never get invited to parties.
Liverwurst and chocolate.
Oh,
Oh.
Patrick does like liverwurst and chocolate, so that is his party
what?
food.
Nutella.
That's. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
So now I'm going to be despised on the internet for having a fetish.
Liverwurst and Nutella sandwiches. Is that what you just said? Do you put slabs of onion on there too? I mean, why not? Right?
I would.
You would?
I would. But my wife doesn't like it when I eat onions, so I don't.
If his wife's
Come
away,
on.
that's his food of choice.
I mean, when I'm in Germany, I'll get an Asiago Brötchen, and I'll put some liverwurst on one side, some Nutella on the other, and no one will ever steal
I
it.
think that's cheese bread.
Oh my
Yes,
god,
yes,
it's so
yes,
terrible.
yeah. German.
So cheese,
Awesome.
liver, and
Liverwurst.
chocolate.
Liverwurst.
And,
It's kind
and
of
chocolate and onions.
When I was a kid, I used to eat liverwurst sandwiches
Yeah.
in school, and if someone stole my lunch, I would basically say, "Give it back, or I will make you eat it." And when they found out what it was, they immediately returned it and apologized.
What?
Yeah.
No mayonnaise?
Yeah, they're
Liverwurst, ketchup, and butter.
Okay, we're all revolted here.
yeah.
Let's get back to something fun, like the incognito mode myth has finally fully unraveled. So Google has this incognito mode, right? That is supposed to.
Well, they have this mode called incognito.
Yeah.
It's not really incognito mode.
It turns out they have all the records of everything that you searched in incognito mode and all the wacky, crazy, perverted websites that you've been to that you didn't want your friends or family to find. Well, it turns out they've got all that.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny though, because a lot of us have this assumed notion of anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, well, if I go incognito mode, I can surf all the dark web I want. Nobody's ever gonna know about it, except for your DNS provider, where they had to make the turn the name of the dark website into an IP address so you could browse it. Your ISP, so that you could browse out of that ISP. Or let's say you're being fancy and you're using a VPN. The VPN provider knows exactly where you're going and what account you used to go there because you had to log into the VPN. So I see that it's interesting that Google says, yes, we are gathering some data from third-party sites that integrate with us. So it doesn't matter whether they use incognito or not. If a third-party site is integrating with Google Ads, whatever, we know that data. It comes back to us. It says, hey, this particular, identity of a browser came to us and was visiting these pages. According to Google, none of that data, if you do incognito, is ever tied to a individual user. However, there's a profile out there, right, that your browser matches that has all of that history, right? All of the deep, dark websites you might have gone to. And Google's like, listen, we'll delete it. We haven't done anything with it. We'll delete it. I think their spokesperson even said, we will pay $0 for this anonymity breach. But honestly, like, I think a lot of people put a lot of faith into the fact that when they go incognito or they go in private browsing or they go whatever, or they use a VPN, huzzah, nobody's going to know where I'm going.
Maybe
and what
it was
I'm doing.
the icon of the spy with the glasses and the collar, from Mad Magazine that gave them
gave you
the
a feel
idea
of it.
that they were actually incognito.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, your ISP knows where you're going anyways. Listen, kids, if you're going to hack into someplace, let's say it's a government facility on a foreign soil somewhere.
Wait. Do we need the theme song?
Yes.
It's criminal career advice.
It's actually much easier for you to break into, say, a foreign college where they don't spend a lot of money on cybersecurity and route all of your attacks through there to another entity than doing it from your house.
You heard it here first. Career criminal advice.
Aren't you
Criminal
supposed
career
to first
advice from Dwayne.
reroute all the traffic through Lisbon and Montreal? We saw that in all the movies.
Usually, no, exactly. So if you route it through through a college somewhere and then up through Starlink and then down over some other onion network, and then make sure any servers along the way you compromise and clean the logs so there's no log of you being there.
Pick up a liverwurst sandwich.
Pretty hard, right? So there's your advice.
Where the mutton's really thin and crispy.
Mutton's nice and lean.
All right, you guys, let's take a quick break and we'll be back right after these very important messages. And we're back. It's Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin, talking to Dwayne and Patrick, and we still have our eye on this heinous GitHub thing. But before we get to that, let's talk about EMI, and I mean EMEYE, eavesdropping on security camera via unintentional RF emissions. What happened?
Are RF emissions ever intentional?
No.
Are any emissions ever intentional? I think. Good question.
I would say spurious emissions are not intentional. However, RF emissions usually are. But that's the ham radio operator in me talking.
Yes,
anyways,
very hammy.
Very hammy. So this is neat, and this is in essence, it's a side channel attack, right?
Which is your favorite?
I love side channel attacks because I think there is a lot of cleverness in a side channel attack. So your wireless camera, whether it's a Ring or something along those lines, a lot of those cameras are wireless, and they're transmitting the data over 2.4 gigahertz is the wavelength of the transmission, right? Or 5 gigahertz, but most of it's 2.4 gigahertz. For all sorts of reasons we could go into, but probably the most important is distance, right? Distance and interference. Cameras are on the outside of the house, routers on the inside of the house. 2.4 gigahertz is going to be a better way to go. So let's say your camera is sending all of this wonderful data, and a lot of people think, well, it's on my wireless network, right? My wireless network is encrypted, and I don't need to worry about it and that sort of stuff. And what researchers have found is it depends. It depends on how sloppy the transmission is from the particular camera. They can use SDR, software-defined radios, In this particular case, I believe they were just using Tempest SDR. And they can scan the 2.4 gigahertz range, and they can pick up enough transmission data. So emanating RF signals, radio frequency signals, outside of the 2.4 gigahertz range, or in that range, but that they don't have to decrypt, where they can actually then see a blurry image of what's going on. Because you got to imagine a black pixel is sent with a little bit of a different wavelength than a white pixel. And we could go over like how data is sent over radio waves and that sort of stuff, whether it's frequency modulated or amplitude modulated and that sort of stuff. But either way, you can see that bits are sent a little bit differently. And in this case, what they've been able to do is actually reconstruct the video without necessarily being on the network, which is wicked cool.
And scary.
And they say some devices are worse than others, of course. So they say, cameras like the Xiaomi Dafang and Wise Cam Pan perform the worst, allowing images to be recovered from distances of 50 centimeters and 350 centimeters.
Wow.
Okay, so 350 centimeters, you're not going to have a neighbor down the street seeing your Ring camera or something along those lines.
I get it. So when you say they perform the worst, you really mean like the bratwurst or the liverwurst or the knockwurst?
It's a lot of worst.
What is that plastic sausage you have right in front of your camera? It looks like a hot dog. What is that?
No, it's a butterfly knife.
Oh, it's a butterfly. It literally looked like a hot dog.
It's a butterfly knife, like everybody has on their desk. It's a butterfly knife, right? Okay. I got robots and SDRs.
So in other words, Dwayne, this is really not this is so near field that it's not any kind of.
I think what's interesting is that, I mean, because if you're that close to the camera, you can just look at what the camera's looking at.
Right, exactly. So do you see a dude standing next to your camera holding a radio?
Oh my God, I can see everything my camera can see.
Okay, but I can see that. Room. If you pick it up, very close, and then now you can maybe capture it and transmit it over a real internet or something like that.
Sure. I mean, the risk here would be you could put an implant somewhere that's hidden and rebroadcasts it.
What I think is interesting is I'm betting, I don't know, I'm betting that machine learning is starting to make this more current, more regular. And so, take your house, for example. If I don't have any sensors in your house, but I have the ability to put microphones pointed towards your house to listen for sounds, I might be able to tell where you are with high accuracy if I listen for a few months. And I say, oh, I see somebody in the living room. Okay, I'm going to give that, that signal, and I'm going to. Machine learning is good at that stuff. You give it a lot of data, and then it says, oh, I heard that floorboard creak, or there's a shift in this subtle way. Machine learning is probably where a lot of this is. So I think we can expect more of these side channel attacks in the future. And that should be something that we all gives us pause, because if AI makes it easier for us to get data, side channel attacks are almost magical. There's almost nothing you could have done other than put a Faraday cage. And even sometimes that won't work. So we have to think, it's another dimension of security we have to think about.
Get out your tinfoil hats, kids.
Actually, tinfoil might work really well. I'm not joking. It's probably pretty good to block most signals.
So, what occurs to me is the more we do this show and the more I was just listening to a radio show from the 90s, and they were talking about what was the Michelangelo virus?
Oh, yeah.
That was supposed to be a worm or something like that. And it was like a unique incident, and people were warning that this particular virus was coming and be careful and stuff. And that was so unusual. Yeah. And now, every week we bam, these things. And I'm wondering, maybe we should be teaching our kids to be on the lookout for just weirdness with the stuff that's in their own homes.
Heck yeah.
And try to figure it out and pwn to own it, man.
Heck yeah. Yeah, and that's where, it is interesting, the pwn to own crew. There's just a target-rich environment. And the problem is, you look at Moore's Law and technology, and it's moving so quickly And everybody, I think it was Vince Lombardi or whoever says, time to market isn't the most important thing. It's the only thing. So people are trying to get products out as fast as humanly possible. If you are the first person to generative AI right now, you're the first person to general AI. You're the first person to quantum computing. Right. I think a lot of companies push the safety to the wayside and say, listen, I want to get to market first, and then later we can worry about security. Yeah. And there are some there are some companies who are saying, no, this is a wrong paradigm. And it sucks. Like, we work with some of those companies where they come to us and say, hey, no. Before we release this product, we want you to review the architecture. We want to be red teamed from the beginning. We want to understand that this is hyper secure before it gets released to the market. Yeah. Now, they may release a little bit later to the market. But I think those people will do better in the long run.
Well, at least their users will.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that has to be a qualification when you buy. I mean, you know me, I like American made, or at least ally made. But we should also need to think about, like, what's the security culture of the company I'm buying from?
Right.
We don't. We should.
All right, let's get to our clickbait. I misspoke before and said this was a GitHub issue. It's not. It's a Red Hat issue. So Red Hat is warning of a backdoor in XZ tools used by most. Did you hear me? I said most Linux distributions. Oh my God. What?
Yeah, but nobody uses Linux.
Oh my God.
Everything uses Linux. That's why it's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little scary.
This is actually really neat. And this is absolutely a nation state style attack. So as we start to unfold this, there's always, I don't know if you guys have seen these memes on like LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, but there's these memes of like this beautiful city being built, and then when you at the bottom of the city you see the sewers and sort of the foundation and the structure, and there's this tiny little like crappy brick that's almost about to fall over that holds the whole city up, and there's an arrow that points to it and says, this is some random GitHub managed by some dude in Kentucky for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And that really does happen. There's all of this code out there that's maintained by like one or two people that gets picked up by Linux distros, by major pieces of software, because, the people who create the utility or whatever it is give it a license in a way that they're like, listen, I don't care who uses it, right? I wrote this compression utility for myself. If somebody wants to use it, great, right? And they maintain it and they keep updating it and whatever it may be. In this particular case, there was one guy maintaining this, library, this XZ utility for data compression. And he's been maintaining it for years. And as he's maintaining it, different distros are picking it up, different distributions of Linux are picking it up, and more are picking it up, etc. And he starts to get overwhelmed with GitHub requests. So people come in and say, hey, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to do that. And magically, this other developer jumps in and says, dude, let me help you out. It looks like you are buried. And you're the only dude working on this. And I really want to help here. And this other developer really starts like helping out a lot, adding new features and fixing things. And for a long time, for like 2 years, to the point where the original maintainer goes, you know what? I want to make you a co-maintainer on this. You've written as much code as I have at this point.
They've proven their mettle and their trustworthiness, and they hand over the keys.
Come to find out, the guy who's writing the code is a nation state actor. All of the requested features came from nation state actors. So they inundated him so that he would need a savior who came in to help out. And then this guy started writing malicious backdoor code that then got pushed to all of these distros. Kudos. This is an impressive way to start circumventing systems. This is the long con, right? This is like 2 years worth of work going into trying to and this literally could be, some nation state either just wanted to make sure they had a backdoor available if they needed it, or it could be that some nation state was like, oh, we want to get into this particular nuclear reactor and we know they use this distro. It's going to be a 2-year haul, but we'll get
crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So let me read the details here. Red Hat warned users to immediately stop using systems running Fedora development and experimental versions because of a backdoor found in, get this, the latest XZ utils data compression tools and libraries. So this is like zip, right? It's like if Zip got infected and they said, please immediately stop usage of any Fedora 41 or Fedora Rawhide instances for work or personal activity, and no versions of Red Hat Enterprise Linux are affected.
Now, get this. You say, okay, who cares? It's a zip. It's like zip, right? So, okay, I won't unzip stuff. But it's deeper than that. What happens is now in this new build of XE utils, the guy wrote code to actually mess with SSH, which is secure shell, so that they have a backdoor to communicate with the server, whether you're running, in a zip process or compression process or not. It doesn't matter. If you updated, apt-get update, and you updated to the newest version, when it installed, it manipulated SSH so that they could then log in if they needed to at any point in time.
Just horrible.
Yeah. So, there are scanners out there now for it. You can go, there's a couple scanners out there. Be careful which ones you download. Obviously, look at the links that we post for the CVE, but there are scanners out there where you can scan your Linux distros and see if you're affected by this. And then obviously there's you can either get rid of the XE tools, or I even believe there might be a patch. But there was a big warning, just stop using it for a while.
Now, the first thing I think of is all of the little devices and tools and Android phones that use Linux. Right? Are these affected? What is Fedora, and does it go into little devices like this?
Not commonly, and that's a great question. So a lot of people might be like, oh my God, what about my TV? Should I worry about my TV or my Ring camera or my whatever?
You should worry about your TV for other reasons.
You should always worry about your TV. So a lot of times your TVs and your small devices, they're either running what's called a Squash FS, which is a tiny little Linux kernel, not a Red Hat for, big desktop sort of implementation. Or they're running Android, right? So those distributions haven't been marked as something you need to worry about yet. So for IoT devices, I always say you should always keep them up to date. You should never have SSH onto your TV or your cameras anyways. So there's no reason for you to secure shell into your TV and
unless you're going to remote into it and
do weird things. For me, I love SSHing into the TV and trying to brick it, which I've done many times.
As you do.
And then Sony's
Patrick has his knives that look like hot dogs, and you SSH in your TV and try to brick it. I mean, we all have our little personality quirks.
Knives everywhere.
That's a very nice knife.
Everywhere. That is nice.
Nice. Show that to the podcast audience again, Patrick.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be really great.
Describe it in longing
it's
detail.
It's a sharp knife.
Yeah, look at
it. Wicked sharp.
New Hampshire. So, needless to say, for devices like that, my advice would be, obviously, you should never have port 22 or SSH from the internet available to any of your devices in your house. It just shouldn't happen. Unfortunately, for businesses, sometimes it does make sense to happen, but even then, you should have it IP restricted.
Now, we've also linked to a FAQ, which is a GitHub gist, on the XZ utils backdoor. So if you want to learn more about it, you can read that fact. That's pretty good, and it's in regular plain English. But if you want to read the CVE at the Red Hat customer portal, we put a link to that too. So that's kind of like a synopsis and an executive security summary.
You can't say FAQ in Boston.
FAQ. FAQ you. I had an uncle from Boston, and when his daughter had a baby, I asked him, how's the baby? And he says, you could give me a sharp knife and a hunk of soft pine, and I could whittle you a better looking baby than what I just seen.
That sounds about right.
All right, you guys, we got to get out of here. We'll see you next week.
Good times. Good talking.
Thanks.
Bye.